Hello and welcome to the latest in our series of Rock and Rock Stars. Well, this time we're going to take you to Newtown in Sydney, and I'm talking to the principal of Raine and Horne Newtown, Gerard Hill. Gerard, thank you very much for your time and welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin.
Tell me a little bit about the history of Raine and Horne Newtown. You've been there, I think, 20 years now?
Yeah, so Raine Hill Newtown, I bought in here in 1999, so in July, so I've literally just ticked over 20 years. We had 6 people on staff. We managed about 280 properties. Today there's about 27 of us here, and we manage about 1,700 properties.
That's wonderful growth in that period of time. Is there anything, I guess it'd be fair to say after 20 years you now probably know how to run a business, and you're obviously running it very successfully. And I don't mean that flippantly, because I think as well as learning what you should do, it's also important to learn what you shouldn't do. Tell me, those 20 years, Gerard, is there anything that stood out to give you that kind of growth?
Yeah, look, it's about employing the right staff, getting the right mix of team. So I've got a couple of really long-term staff here. I've got Bruna, who's been with me for 17 years, Lydia over 10, Nicole worked for me in the early 2000s, went to England for 7 years, came back. So she's ticked over 10 years. Matthew's 10 years. Lee's one of the new guys, the senior property manager, 5 years. Got a great BDM who's been with me for 5 years. He's nearly coming up to 6. So it's about building the right team and getting the mix of that right. So that's been a great help. We've done a couple of acquisitions during that time as well, but it's fair to say that probably a lot of those acquisitions would have churned over the last sort of 10 years. So our BDM, Adam, he brings on anywhere between 150 and 200 a year. We've got a couple of big government contracts that we've gone out to tender for, and that's put a fair chunk of rent roll on it for us. So they're good clients to have. They're very easy to work with. So those sort of things, having the right people and looking for opportunities, really.
Just along the way there, when you're growing your rent roll, my experience is, and correct me if you think I'm wrong, but you get to certain stages in numbers and you've got to make a decision about whether you're going to grow and how you're going to grow. And you talked there about acquisition. We'll touch on that in a moment. What are the stages that you've found? At what point did you reach in terms of numbers where you had to say, well, I need to now almost put my rent roll into loss to help it grow by putting on more people? Were there any stages like that for you?
Yeah, well, I'm probably at one of those stages at the moment as well. So I look at the dollar value that comes out of a particular portfolio, and when that gets to probably a maximum, then I look to grow again or streamline processes. But traditionally there was that sort of growth. We got to 600, way back when, and then it was a bit stagnant, and we got to 800. And it stopped for a while, then 900, 1,200 was another ceiling. But from there, it's actually gone pretty well. So, and it's about, sometimes you've got to employ before you actually need the people. And we've got 12 sort of working the property management, plus accounts, plus a BDM, plus a head of department. So there's always going to be someone on holiday. So you can nearly afford to carry someone just for those periods. But at the moment with 1,700, we're starting to get a bit stretched. So I've actually got a lady on maternity leave. She'll be coming back soon, and that will allow us to grow again, that next expansion.
Yeah, let's talk about acquisitions. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, you said you'd acquired a couple of rent rolls over those years. Have you got a preference for organic growth or acquisition?
No, I don't have a preference at all, Kevin. It's sort of, if you look at the acquisition, if you've got the resources, like we've got the office facilities here, so that doesn't cost me any more. I've got computers here, that doesn't cost me any more. Telephone systems. So if it's profitable, then I'm happy to look at it. And, we're probably driving maybe 35% profit out of our rent roll. So if I can see a rent roll, I can acquire it, cost me 5% to borrow the money to acquire it, well, there's still profit there. So that allows the business to grow in other areas.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Tell me a little bit about Newtown now in terms of your competition. Do you have much competition on fee?
Yeah, look, there is competition on fee, and we've got some really good agents here and good long-term established agents. Newtown's a great area. It's a very eclectic mix, so everything works in Newtown, which is really refreshing. So I spent a fair bit of time in the eastern suburbs before I came here, and it just got a little bit stale, I suppose. So Newtown's a really nice mix of people. So in competitive wise, sure, there's other competitors out there that offer cheaper fees, but we're not really in that business, I don't think. So, real estate's a person-to-person business. If I've got people that are highly experienced, highly trained, then we'll come out in front a lot of the times. And we've just picked up the Real Estate Business Award for the best property management team in Australia for the second year in a row. We picked up the Real Estate Institute of New South Wales property management team for excellence. So we've actually got runs on the board that we don't actually have to compete on fees so much. So there's still pressure on it. But, we look at agents and they'll overprice things and stay vacant for 4 weeks. We talk to people about gross yield and what happens over the course of the year. So we can sort of justify our fees in that regard.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier about key selection of staff, selection of key staff. What is it you look for when you're looking for a property manager?
In all employees, I look for sort of 3 characteristics: hungry, humble, and smart. So with property managers, I'm sort of looking for that as well, and they've got to be empathetic. So if you understand that when people come to deal with real estate agents and property management space, you're a landlord that's got a mortgage, and so they're pretty keen on having a tenant put in there. So that's a bit of a stressful situation for them. So you've got to understand that. When you have a tenant that has got a broken toilet or no electricity or something's not working, the oven's not working, that's probably pretty stressful for them as well. So if you're not empathetic with your people, then you're probably not going to win. And, our staff, they're pretty keen on finding solutions. They listen. One of our golden rules, I suppose you could call it, one of our core values is that we treat others how we'd like to be treated. So we put that into everyday life. So, and I'll give you an example of that. Probably 6 months ago, I got a phone call from this lady who lived in a property next to one of ours, and ours was vacant, and the smoke alarm had been going off for 3 hours. So she calls me at about 10 o'clock on a Monday night, and I sat there and went, geez, that'd be pretty horrible. So I jumped in my car to come over here and fix the smoke alarm. I rang her as I was on the way here, and she said, I thought you must have already been here. It stopped. Anyway, she put a Google review up on our system saying that she wasn't even a client of ours, but I got out of my home at 10 o'clock on a Monday night to come over and sort it out. That was customer service. So it's that sort of stuff. So if you think about how it would be for you in that circumstance, and you put yourself in people's circumstance, then it actually makes it pretty easy to be pretty kind and do the right thing by people. So that's sort of what we do.
Yeah, I want to talk about that because I think that you've raised a really interesting point there, and that is that being prepared personally to go to the extra level. And I was going to ask you about technology. And, I guess there's always a danger with technology, and I'm going to sound like an old fuddy-duddy here, but sometimes with technology we can rely too much on it and we lose that personal touch. I guess you've got to weigh it up, don't you? Where does technology fit into our business, and where do we need to get involved personally?
Well, technology is a tool. It's just a tool you use, just like a plumber uses a plunger. So it's something that's relevant to our industry, but we're a people-to-people business. So, and you can't build relationships with people via email, via text. It's a conversation, and sort of there's so many things that go into communication that you really have to be face-to-face a lot of the time. So we are a people industry. You've got to remember that. So there's the platforms out there that will offer cheap services and that sort of stuff. But if they don't replace the people-to-people interaction, then I'm not sure how they're going to go long-term. So we all want to be treated special. It's customer service. It's sort of, you go to a restaurant, you have a meal. You're not actually paying for the meal because you can get food anywhere. You're paying for the service and experience. So it's technology's great. We use it. I'm one of those people that I see something shiny, I jump at it. And Bruna, who's been with me for 17 years, she turns around and says, "You're the entrepreneur. You're the one that likes the silver things." And she goes, "I've worked out what I am." I said, "So what's that, Bruna?" And she said, "I'm your dream crusher." So that's her just saying that, hey, that's a great idea, but it's not going to work. Or, hey, that's a great idea, let's run with it. So technology is a tool. And it always will be a tool, but it won't replace human interaction.
Yeah, it's the thing I love about Rockend too, that they understand that, and they give the individual the opportunity to interact with the model. So it's really good, mate. I can see why they've recommended you for this series. So I want to thank you very much for giving us your time, and all the best in the future.
Thanks, Kevin. Appreciate it.